Welcome back to the New Sentinel, where we do the digging so you don't have to. Chukwuka here, joined by the full crew, Major Ethan Sentinel Graves, Olga Ivanova, and Duke Johnson. Today we're unpacking a story that's got all the drama, an FBI raid on John Bolton, former National Security Advisor, over alleged mishandling of classified documents. If you missed it, on August 22, 2025, the feds hit Bolton's Maryland home and D.C. office bright and early. Boxes taken, papers everywhere. It's like deja vu, isn't it? Major Graves, kick us off on what triggered all this.
You bet, Chukwuka. This whole operation, as I see it, was coordinated right down to the second. Raids at 7 a.m., both sites. The legal hook, Espionage Act and Federal Records Law. Allegedly, Bolton was sending classified info, get this, over his personal email servers, maybe even to family. The guy ran national security. Now, the warrant wasn't just FBI-driven. We've got CIA Director John Ratcliffe feeding in intelligence that justified the search. Let's not forget FBI Director Kash Patel, a well-known Trump loyalist, green-lit it and even ran his mouth on X. No one is above the law. FBI agents on mission. That's as clear a message as you get. But to your point, Chukwuka, there's history here. Trump's own Mar-a-Lago spot was raided by the feds for the same playbook back in 2022, and those charges dropped in mid-2024. You'd think we'd have a blueprint for how these things go by now.
But is there really a blueprint, Ethan? Because if so, it is a confusing and ever-shifting one. I remember interviewing former State Department officials during Hillary Clinton's email investigation years ago, and most genuinely had no idea what counted as appropriate channels for classified material. So if even diplomats are flustered, imagine trying to establish intent in these cases. For Bolton, the DOJ had already tried to block his memoir, claiming there was classified content in it. Now we're seeing aggressive action, but the line between legal justification and political motive gets blurrier each cycle. Especially with Bolton, he's been criticizing Trump since 2019. So are we policing security or just settling scores?
Look, Olga brings up a good point, but let's focus on what matters. Chain of custody, transparency, who signed off. It's all right there if you know where to look. Court authorization is huge, means this wasn't some flyby deal. And it ain't the first time. Clinton, Trump, Comey, now Bolton, government heavyweights seem to always be in the spotlight for this kind of thing. But, and I can't stress this enough, whether it's retribution or due process, only a fool thinks the law just happens by accident in D.C. There's always a play. Remember, kids, the details are where the ops live.
Absolutely, Duke. And the takeaway for listeners is, we've got pattern and precedent. Memoir leaks trigger feds, high-profile raids lead to partisan divide, and everyone starts debating the appropriate channels. We're going to build on those themes next. Is this about enforcing the law, or is it just another round of D.C. score settling? Let's dig in.
All right, pulling off my historian cap here. This case reminds me of the political prosecutions back in the Cold War era. You know, public enemies of the state show trials. Different era, but same flavor. Now, is this raid legit law enforcement, or are we watching retribution play out 'cause Trump and Bolton had a falling out? Let's not forget, Trump revoked Bolton's clearance and his Secret Service detail just 7 months before the raid. That's not subtle.
And the optics cannot be separated from the substance, Ethan. You get selective enforcement when the rules seem to only hit critics of the powerful. For people like Bolton, who turned on Trump and then lost security protections, the suspicion of retaliation isn't just paranoia. It's a lived reality for whistleblowers and critics everywhere. I've spoken to former intelligence officers terrified to speak up now. This has a chilling effect. Every new raid signals, do not speak, do not write. We already saw the drop in memoirs and first-hand disclosures after the Mar-a-Lago incident and the Clinton investigation. The trust thermometer keeps dropping.
But even if it's political, it don't mean there ain't something real to chase here. I've seen it overseas. Command decisions that look like vendettas And then you finally peek behind the curtain and, yeah, someone messed up. All I'm saying, when you lose trust in command, you lose the war. Right now, public confidence in federal law enforcement takes a hit every time cases like this get handled with TV cameras and press conferences, rather than silent, tight ops. You want to keep whistleblowers? Show them justice isn't just for the favored few. Otherwise, yeah, folks keep their mouths shut, and public servants start protecting their careers, not the Constitution.
And let's not pretend timing isn't everything here. This raid popped off after Trump's own charges were dropped, while he's in the middle of gearing up for another campaign. So was this truly about national security, or making a public example? We've covered this before. Episode 5, when we talked about federal law enforcement and community trust. It all loops back. Selective action erodes belief in the process, and that's the real price. Olga, how does this land on the ground with real people?
It lands like a warning. What you publish, what you leak, even what you say on a podcast, it could all put you on a list. There is a desperate need for clear, fair rules, but as long as enforcement is selective or politicized, fear and silence win. And that's a loss for democracy and the public record.
It's tough, 'cause the country does need accountability. We need to protect secrets, but facts, not feuds, have to drive the show. If not, you kneecap whistleblowers and chill insider critiques. And that leaves the public flying blind, which is never good for national security.
Amen to that. You want transparency, you gotta have even-handed justice. Can't be picking targets just 'cause they're inconvenient or in the way politically.
So we've got layers here. Law meets politics, trust meets public perception, and everyone's watching to see if this sets a new precedent or just repeats old mistakes. Let's move on and break down where this leaves national security and the guardrails of public trust. We'll get strategic with a SWOT analysis.
All right, let's get tactical. SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Starting strong. This raid told every government official, yes, even you up there in the ivory towers, you mess with classified protocols, you get the spotlight. Patel was real clear. No one is above the law. That kind of message, if done right, reinforces discipline. That's a strength. Same as when you see real operational rigor. Boxes seized, docs logged, court warrants in hand. Shows procedural backbone.
But, and this is key, the weaknesses are glaring. Lots of people are convinced this was a political hit more than a real enforcement action. Bolton's case file is still sealed. He hasn't even been charged. Makes folks suspicious that it's selective. Add on all the headlines calling this retribution, and you're risking the FBI's institutional credibility. It's a fragile thing, that trust. Reminds me of the chilling effect Duke mentioned. A lot of civil servants see this and decide it's not worth writing, leaking, or even criticizing anymore. The info environment goes cold.
I see a big opportunity here, though, not just for accountability, but for educating everyone about how classified protocols really work. When the news covers these cases, it's more than a spectacle. Listen, after Mar-a-Lago, Clinton's emails and this, people are hungry for clarity. Some platforms, PBS, Politico, have tried to break it down, but it's civic intelligence podcasts like this one, or maybe even a classified cases tracker, that can help demystify the process. If there's ever a chance for bipartisan reform, tightening up the pre-publication review process for memoirs, formalizing what counts as classified, now's the time. The pressure is real, but it could do some good.
But threats are everywhere, and not just to Bolton. These high-profile law shows can turn law enforcement into political weapons, whether intended or not. Remember the fallout from scandals in command structures during my third deployment? After trust breaks, you get chaos in the ranks. Public protests, headlines, social media firestorms. Stuff gets spun fast, and before you know it, no one believes anything. Plus, you risk pushing the real truth so deep underground, it never comes back. That's institutional damage, and sometimes it's permanent.
Exactly. Serious reforms are needed if we want to leave this as a teaching moment, not just a new wound. Maybe a legislative update. Maybe a formalized public tracker for these classified document cases. Are these platforms like ours cutting through noise, or just amplifying confusion? That's the challenge. I say, if we keep pressing for transparency, maybe, just maybe, we edge things forward just a little.
Couldn't agree more, Chukwuka. And as always, folks, situational awareness isn't just for soldiers, it's for citizens too. Don't buy any narrative at face value. Dig, ask, compare.
And never stop demanding that your institutions serve you, not just their own power. Use your voice while we still can. We'll keep tracking these stories and hopefully help build that classified cases tracker real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Stay sharp, stay skeptical.
All right, everyone. That's all for this episode of The New Sentinel. Lots more to unpack in the weeks ahead, so stick with us. Olga, Ethan, Duke, thanks as always. Thank you, listeners.
Solid as always. See y'all next time.
Take care, everyone, and don't switch off your critical thinking.
Stay vigilant. Till next time.
Goodbye, everyone.